Hi, everybody. We are so glad that you made time today to join us for this first of our renewed Reconciling Clergy gatherings. My name is Rachel Cornwell. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I serve at Dumbarton United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. I'm an elder in the Baltimore, Washington Conference, and I'm part of the Reconciling Ministry Board and one of the clergy who's helping with this extension ministry to renew our clergy connection within RMN. So thank you all so much for being here. I don't know where you are. Maybe we could ask people to just put into the chat where you're dialing in from today and what the weather is like. We have snow on the ground here in DC and more on the way. So I'm excited about that. I know not everybody is, but I am. And today, this Reconciling Clergy gathering, we are really happy to have Nick Mundwiller. Am I saying your name right, Nick? Okay, Nick's part of Reconciling Ministries and is in the resource development arm of Reconciling Ministries. And so they're going to talk about some great Reconciling Ministries Network resources that are coming out, and particularly our Vacation Bible School curriculum that I'm super excited about. I had the privilege of being part of the design team for this, and I just think it's such a phenomenal resource, and I'm so excited, having done so many terrible VBSs over the years. I'm just really excited that Reconciling Ministries has this one that's intersectional, justice focused, inclusive. And if you were at Convo, you got to hear some of the fabulous music that's a part of this curriculum. So we're really, really excited to share this with you and hope that your congregations will be thinking about ways to use these resources. I also want to introduce Ophelia Hukini. If you have not met Ophelia, who is also part of the Reconciling Ministries staff and is providing support today. Thank you so much, Ophelia. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick, and they're going to share a little bit about these resources. Then we'll have some time for question answer. If you want to just pop your question into the chat too, Ophelia and I'll be watching the chat. But you're also welcome after Nick shares with us to unmute yourself and ask your question yourself. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of time to talk about upcoming Reconciling Clergy gatherings that we're planning. So Nick, you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rachel. And hi, everyone. It's nice to see you. And hi to friends who I know. It's great to see some friendly faces. It's always a little nerve-wracking when you're talking to a new group of pastors. So it's great to have some folks that like, oh, it's a smiling face I know. So if we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I am the managing content editor for the new Just Like Me VBS curriculum. I am a 7th generation United Methodist from St. Louis, Missouri, who's recently relocated to California because of the anti-trans laws that have been happening. So as I kind of had that move to California, I actually had to move out of working in ministry space. I used to do social justice ministry, but kind of went with a nonprofit kind of job to get myself to California. And so I was kind of, really missing church work and saw this RMN ad for, we want to make this inclusive intersectional curriculum. And I thought that is exactly what I want to be doing. So I got to work on this really amazing project with so many voices. But I've also kind of been really blessed by Reconciling Ministries to get to continue helping to develop resources. Most of you may know, or you may not know, our kind of resource director at RMN, Emily Bagwell, is out on maternity leave. So I have had an opportunity to get to kind of step in and do some support around developing some new resources. So today I'm going to talk about a few different options, because while I'm here to talk about the VBS, I have a kind of secret ulterior motive. And that motive is to really show you that RMN is committing to walking with you and with your congregations. And in that spirit, we are stepping into a new place around resource development. So for a long time, we've tried to keep a good resource library to connect you and your congregations to good resources that are out there. But we're really stepping more into this space of getting feedback from you all, from our community, of what resources do we need, what can't we find, and how can we work with writers, with thinkers, with theologians to start to create that awesome stuff. So before I dig all the way into the Vacation Bible School, I want to talk about kind of 3 other resource opportunities really quickly, so you know that there's kind of some other stuff out there. I also might put some of our folks on this meeting on the spot if they are familiar with some of these resources. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. The first resource I want to talk about is the Theology, Identity, and Me. Now, this is a 3-part video series that you can find on the RMN resource kind of area of our website. If you visit the RMN website under resource, this is one of the links that you can click on. This is a 3-part series that is a great introduction for communities who want to start thinking about theology, identity, sexuality, and gender. So this series uses kind of a multi-vocational approach that looks at a variety of different disciplines in order to help provide your community the resources to begin engaging in really kind of healthy and productive conversations and work about inclusion. Now, this might be putting them on the spot a little bit, but I know that HN is currently kind of preparing to lead a group through this. HN, do you want to maybe share just what you've experienced with this resource? And I believe you also helped create it.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? My dog who just had surgery is up and about, and it's a
Oh, no.
little worrisome. So,
Also,
if
you
would,
can also say like, no, I don't want to answer. I just want to be like, you want to say anything about theology, identity, and me, and why people should use it, other than just it's here and it's a good resource?
No, it's a great resource. I found that it generates a lot of questions for people and answers a lot of questions for people. It generates questions that people didn't realize that they had. And it generates answers for people that people didn't know that they needed. It's one of the most profound moments that I think we had recently in one of the studies that I'm doing is on Zoom, is someone texted me afterwards and was like, I had never thought about gender as being non-binary in the same way that light and dark is non-binary. That's just one step in addition to all the stories that you get. And I loved working on the project. It's really good stuff, and it's really quality videos. Like, I'm able to stream the videos over Zoom to our participants from the website easily, so that people can actually watch along and see what the content is. So I definitely recommend it. And that's not just because I'm in one of the videos. I refused to watch the video that I did until I had to, because I'm so self-critical, but it turned out good. So I think mostly the people doing the filming and the script writer for that. So I'm blanking on names right now, but mostly because I've got to go check on my dog.
Yeah, no, you're great. Also, sorry for putting you on the spot, but this is a great resource. Again, this is kind of also a great entry-level resource. So for communities who are just starting to have those conversations. So the next resource that I want to tell you about is one that you all are getting a sneak preview of. And if you've registered this event, you'll be getting an email with a copy of. Our Parent Support Network has put together this really amazing parent support group toolkit. So if your church or a community you know is trying to put together an opportunity for parents of LGBTQ kids or teens to kind of come together and connect around those things and find the resources they need, this is a perfect place to go. Now, I am super impressed with this toolkit. When they said they were making a toolkit, I was like, okay, it's going to be what, 3 pages? This is a 20-page toolkit that is full of all sorts of different things. So as you can see here, kind of in the table of contents, there's a whole section on how to create these meetings. How do you facilitate the meeting? How do we create that community? They also then have 5 different options for how you can plan your development for that parent group. They can either start with talking kind of about personal experiences, or talking about media that they're watching, or reading something together, or sharing stories from their own kind of families. Or if you have folks who are already in that advocacy space, we have an action track where you can start to get really engaged. It also has its own appendix that includes, how to connect with Reconciling Ministries, with PRN, as well as additional articles and resources. So this isn't kind of everything you need forever and ever, but this is how you can take a group in your church or your community and give them their own handbook of how to move forward, right? It's great that we are pastors who support reconciling activities, but I know you all are very, very busy people and you don't have time to run every small group that's going on. So this is a great resource to kind of pass along. It's also a really good resource to make sure that your youth director and children's director has, because they might have some of the same questions that parents have, right? If they're working with young people, how do I respond when someone comes out to me? This is a great kind of first step of where you can find that. So you are getting the kind of first wave of release of this resource, but it will be available on the RMN website before the end of the month. This one has kind of a suggested donation. So you can get it for free, but we also are asking if you're able to give us a $5 or $10 donation. The proceeds from this will be split between the Parent Support Group Network, PRN, and what they're doing, and this RMN Resource Development Initiative so that we can create more resources like this. One more before we dig into the VBS that I'm very excited about, and I might put David on the spot, but we are working to create a resource to help individuals and communities start to talk about LGBT inclusion and why it matters. And we kind of have two different objectives for this new resource that we're calling Say More. We want to equip churches and individuals to talk to one another and those who are a part of General Conference so that we can move institutional and structural change in our denomination, but also how to talk to their family members or the people in the pews across from them if you're in a church community that's not affirming, or if you're in a community that's kind of currently experiencing strife around gender and sexuality and you need to get some advocacy going. This awesome resource is going to be a kind of workshop video template that has a discussion guide that goes along with videos. We have a training video to help facilitators prepare for how do you tell your story and then how do you coach other people into finding that story. And this is all content from David Meredith and Molly Vetter that they shared with us at Convocation. David, do you want to say a little bit about kind of what led you to create this resource and kind of encourage folks to keep an eye out for it?
I'll say a couple of things. Thank you, Nick, for sharing it and for developing the marvelous graphic and providing us the legs under which an idea is taking shape. You have been amazing, and the rest of the RMN staff has really been amazing. So thank you. What I would say is reconciling is a verb. It's not simply the noun of an organization or a movement, but it really is a verb. And the word reconcile comes from conversation. It comes from working with, working alongside, being with, being alongside. And so Molly and I really wanted to help create a framework that embodied these ideas of reconciling with the important matters of LGBTQ inclusion in the life of the United Methodist Church, in hopes that it would shift the narrative from arguments about Bible or arguments about the Book of Discipline, but into a sort of another deeply rooted, experiential, emotional place. So that's what this is intended to do. It builds on the work of Marshall Gans, who did a community organizing, a public narrative model out of the Kennedy School of Public Affairs. And we are borrowing some of his ideas and building them into this, this workshop or this method that can be used in small groups and in congregations around the world. So we're very happy about it.
Excellent. So we've recorded what we're doing for that. We've got this cover, but we're still working on that editing and packaging piece. But I want to show you that kind of we're going to be consistently releasing new resources and materials to help support you where you're at. I know we had a couple of questions in the chat. We will have 10 minutes kind of at the end of my next little spiel. So I'll go through all of those questions and we make sure that everyone has answers before we finish. But The kind of topic of the hour is our Just Like Me Vacation Bible School curriculum. This is an amazing curriculum that RMN has put together that is truly unlike any vacation Bible school resource I have ever seen. For me, the most important part of Just Like Me is how it was made. So rather than saying, this is the theme that we want for this vacation Bible school, here are your stories, go ahead and one writer put all of this together. We decided if we wanted to make something that was truly inclusive, we needed to include as many voices as possible. So developing this vacation Bible school started with a development conference where we had a fairly large team of theologians, thought leaders, prominent pastors from a variety of different communities and identities. We wanted a group of people who are really in the know about the theological issues that are really pressing against our children these days, right? Our kind of statement from the beginning was children have real and deep and complicated lives. They are experiencing all of the same tension as we are in the world around us. We're not creating a vacation Bible school to give you building blocks to someday have a faith life as a child. We recognize that your faith and how you understand God and the world around you is a part of everything. And that's what we really want to address. What are those skills that we need to give our kids so that they can live in the world that we have today? So we had a group of, I think it was 14 different people, which with a bunch of PhDs and pastors and 14 of us, that means that we had 16 different opinions on every single question that we asked. And the first question we asked was, what do you hate about Vacation Bible School? What has hurt in the past when you were at VBS or you led VBS? So we started with, where has there been a failing in our kind of religious education? How do we avoid those missteps? And what do we do to move forward? So once we did that, we got a whole bunch of things that we didn't want this curriculum to be. We didn't want it to be a week-long curriculum leading to the crucifixion in order to scare people into conversion experiences, like some historical vacation Bible schools do. We didn't want to pick a theme like going to the zoo and then not really have it relate to any of our biblical stories. And we didn't want the music to suck. That was the number one request we had. You have to hear those VBS songs over and over and over. Can we actually make them be about teaching kids, and can we make them fun to listen to? After we had those kinds of guardrails, those theologians all argued with one another until we had 5 skills or concepts that we wanted kids to have. What are 5 kind of practical theological things that kids need? And then we had them argue all over again of what Bible stories, what characters can kids identify with to find themselves in those stories. Right? So that's this Just Like Me title. There's a couple different angles to it. Just Like Me, because this curriculum puts justice at its heart. And Just Like Me, because I am recognizing I can be just like these biblical characters who are all unlikely heroes in their own stories. So how we made this curriculum is the piece that makes it inclusive with as many perspectives as possible and really thinking about what are we teaching our children? And then how can we have the design flow for that? So Just Like Me has this really fun kind of garden theme. I'm going to play this 1-minute video. If like it's very loud or something, give me a turn it up or turn it down. And I'll give you a little picture of what is going on. So that's the instrumental track for our theme song for the week. So that's the track that you might choose on the Sunday after VBS or maybe a month later so they can have some more practice for your children's choir to maybe get up and share. So you can tell that that music, I saw some heads bopping along. It's not quite the same kind of, wheels on the bus music that we sometimes get with our Vacation Bible School. So this Vacation Bible School has a garden theme, and we have a character for each day. So each day students will come, there'll be an opening gathering, and they'll have an I statement for the day. Our I statements are things like, I wonder, I have something to shout about, I have something to share, I need my people, I have something to say. So each day these students are saying these I statements and practicing these skills along with a garden guide who has some personal information to share. So as you can see here, we have a very kind of diverse group of characters. We were very careful about what characters we picked and how we created them to first avoid stereotypes that children's kind of illustrations might fall into, and to try to represent our children in a really authentic way. Now, these garden characters are there just to kind of get you excited and kind of pull things together, but they're actually just one of the characters that you'll meet. Because our Bible lessons in this VBS come through a storyteller. So each day you have a visitor who comes to your class and tells you their story. Our first day is Thomas. Thomas comes to tell the story about the time that Jesus had gone and his friends told him that Jesus came back to life and he just couldn't believe them. But instead of talking about doubting Thomas, our curriculum celebrates Thomas and his desire to learn more. That is our I Wonder Day, where we learn that God loves our questions and we can worship God with our questions. We celebrate that we all learn differently, and we celebrate Thomas for the way that he was able to experience Jesus differently because he was asking some of those questions, right? So each day we pick a Bible story where we explore the kind of themes that go with that I statement. Another thing that makes this curriculum really unique is our last 2 days are both stories from 2 Kings. Has anyone ever heard of a curriculum for kids that uses the story from 2 Kings? No, it's not the stuff we normally use, but it's important stories that we know our kids can grab onto and connect with. So on Thursday, students will learn the story of the poor widow who asked Elijah for help and was told to turn to her neighbors so that they could all bring their empty jars, because when we need help, we all have people around us who we can go to and lean on, right? We need our people, our community. And who are our people? This is a line from the song for Thursday. I know that they're my people because they love me for who I am. We're not just saying, kids, you need community. We're also helping teaching that skill of how to identify that community that you need, right? Our final day is a lesson all about advocacy, using our voice to speak up for others, because that is what we are called to do. And students learn the story of the healing of Naaman, where the young servant girl who knows how to heal her master's husband, who's a war general, she can't speak up to talk to that war general. I can't necessarily say something as a child that my mayor or my president is going to listen to, but I can talk to my Sunday school teacher, who might be able to talk to my pastor, who might be able to help us figure out how to talk to a state legislature, right? Because when we use our voice to speak up for those in need, it can start a chain reaction. So what I'm hoping that I'm kind of illustrating to you all is this is a refreshing curriculum, not just because the pictures are diverse, but because we're trying to support kids who are living in a diverse and uncertain world. There's also another kind of unique piece of this curriculum. I'm going to stop sharing and then switch my share to a different window. But the Just Like Me is not only for our children in our Vacation Bible School. Here's our table of contents, and underneath all of that really great Vacation Bible School camp stuff, underneath all of the crafts and the games and the suggested extension activities, we have a youth and adult track, right? Because too often our children's ministries are kind of separated out from the larger ministry of the church. It is our hope that Just Like Me is a curriculum that can be for your whole community. So we have collections of 5 different lessons for youth and for adults that each take on one of the ideas, one of the I statements, one of the Bible stories from that VBS curriculum, and gives that information, gives that experience in an age-appropriate way that still includes fun VBS things like a craft, a game, an activity, right? We want to invite all congregations into this. And with those youth and adult tracks, we have a little bit more of an eye to there might be more diversity in what communities need for those age groups. When we're working with kids, we're usually starting at kind of entry-level ideas, right? Because we're helping kids build their understanding. Some of our communities might already kind of have understandings around these topics, right? So I'm thinking about kind of our final day. I have something to say. It's all about advocacy. Some of our communities, some of your communities already know what advocacy is, right? They don't need a, hey, did you know you should use your voice to speak up for others? So with that in mind, each of these adult and youth lessons has 3 different options for engagement. I like to think of it as spiciness, so that you or whoever is leading this session can decide, how do we want to talk about this topic and where is my community ready to engage, right? Do we need to start with advocacy is important, where is our sphere of influence of who we can talk to? Or do we need to do, what issue do we want to advocate on? And let's make an action plan to do those things, right? So we're inviting folks into living out their faith in these really practical ways. We also have provided a lot of resources to try to help individuals as they are planning, kind of preparing for their Just Like Me experience. So I kind of have been showing you here, we have the website. This is where you can make your purchase of the Just Like Me curriculum. You can also, if you scroll down, it's kind of a little far, but we have curriculum samples. So you can click here and get a view of what does this actually look like as I'm going to hand it to a volunteer and have them kind of work their way through it. So as you can see here, our lessons are scripted. If you have volunteers who are new, I know some of us are like, hey, it's VBS time. Come on, volunteers. Come on, it's time to step up and live up to that baptismal covenant, right, of promising to support. If you have those volunteers, they just read the words on the page. If you have volunteers that have been doing this for 40, 50 years, they can read in advance, prepare, and work a little more conversationally. But we try to give the most support so it's there for folks who need it. Our lessons are also always packaged together with side-by-side for our different ages. Sometimes there's 2 groups, sometimes there's 3. The reason we have those side-by-side is we recognize that not every community is going to have kids that are at the same kind of comfort with material or academic level. So having these side-by-side allows you as a course instructor, a class leader, to jump over, because the side-by-side is the same lessons. Students are working on the same concepts, but language is changed or activities might be changed to meet different skill levels and activities of kids. If you're still thinking, okay, great, this is a scripted lesson, but that's not enough for a new volunteer, don't worry, we have additional support as well in the form of videos. So we have a Just Like Me YouTube channel. Everything is publicly available. And as you can see here, we have 4 different kind of groupings of videos. So these videos are meant to be helpful for you as you kind of cater this opportunity to your own community. So we have these daily overview videos for volunteers. And those videos will tell you, here's what we're talking about today. Here's the Bible verse. Here are your main points. Here's a summary of each of the activities. And here's some suggestions for how to keep your students' hands busy as they walk through the hallway, right? These 3-minute videos can be watched every day before the beginning of the session so that volunteers have the tools that they need. We also have a slightly longer volunteer orientation video, which will tell them kind of the larger view picture of the curriculum, what's going on and what they need. For our adult and youth track, we likewise have leader orientation videos. YouTube doesn't work with me quite the way I want it to, but we have leader orientation videos to prepare you for leading your kind of class through each topic. And then we also have these short introduction videos where
Have you ever babysat or had to watch your siblings or dealt with kids who just won't stop asking why? Let's wash our hands. Why? Because they need to be clean.
because I want to be conscious of time and I'm already running a little bit over. But we have these short 1 to 2 minute videos that are an opportunity to kind of give you a teaser into what we're going to be talking about. These aren't required in the curriculum. You're not missing kind of vital information by not using them, but we wanted to create dynamic resources. And we know that videos are really helpful in keeping attention and all of those other things. So we have a variety of these resources. There's also a director video. This one is the longer of the videos, but that director video will let you know everything you need to know as an organizer of the VBS of what to do. Just a couple more resources to get through. We have a Pinterest page, which we've just started. And this is really helpful for people like me who are not craft-minded, say. We love the garden theme because it's easy to adapt to whatever context we're in, right? I remember having a VBS where it was like a safari theme. That's great, but safaris are really far away and there's nothing that I can really connect with that safari and my life. A garden theme, we want this to feel like it's a garden that could be right outside your door, right? So how you decorate your garden can reflect your community. I'm out here in Fresno, California. My garden would be full of orange and lemon trees and a lot of citrus. If I was in New England, even in the summer, that's not going to be the fruits that are growing. I might have apple trees or root vegetables or whatever grows in New England. I should have picked a region I know more about the gardening. But our Pinterest, we are filling up with different ideas of how you can create a garden feeling, a garden environment where you're at. This is something that you can blow up and have be a huge production. If you're at a 300 kids that are coming in and you have the big stage and a rock band, that's great. You can go and get big garden box tubs and fill them with dirt and put in plants and have bags of fertilizer. If you're at a smaller church in a lower income community with a minuscule budget, which is what my kind of experiences in churches has mainly been, you can get some brown wrapping paper and put it around 2 moving boxes and use construction paper that's green to make your own garden box, right? This is a theme that we're hoping we can provide a variety of resources so that you can make it fit in your own context. This Pinterest will also have more information for extension activities. So we didn't give science lessons in our curriculum. We didn't write science lessons. But I know that one of the main concerns a lot of parents have over the summer is summer brain drain and kids losing that academic advancement. So if your church wants to add a science station, we have on this Pinterest links to all of the lesson plans that we reference in our extension activities. So if you're doing a full day VBS, you can print these off and add a science station right into your agenda. Last thing that I had was our Facebook page. So if you've not already, please follow us on Facebook. This is going to be my big push and beg. Even if you are not someone who is in charge of ministry, children's ministry, even if you have absolutely 0 children at your church, please follow and share this Facebook page. I know that on the Facebook groups that I'm a part of with ministry folks, I am constantly seeing asks for where can I find an inclusive curriculum? Where can I find lessons that I don't have to adjust in order to make fit my context? Where are the songs that don't have problematic gendered language about God for me to use in my children's ministry? We know this is a desperately needed resource, and we need your help to make sure that the people who need this resource, who want this resource, are aware that it is something that is there. So following our social media, liking our posts, sharing our posts is always great. We have a post that's about a week old right now, but it's kind of pinned at the top because we have a new endorsement from Bishop Karen Olivetto. So that's kind of right now what we're pushing to be like, hey, see, this really cool, important person says our curriculum is really cool and important. But we would appreciate any kind of help and support that you might be able to offer as we kind of continue to get the word out. We are committing to continuing our work with doing a vacation Bible school. To be frank with you all, it is a very large undertaking, maybe larger than we realized when we first started this project. So we're not yet sure if we'll have one every year or every other year, but we know that our next Vacation Bible School is going to really focus on neurodiversity and experience of students with different needs. So we're really looking forward to kind of getting this curriculum out there, seeing how folks interact with it, and continuing to make resources that meet people where they are and give them the resources they need. So I'm going to stop just yakking at you and check out our questions and see what we have. So,
so awesome, Nick. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just like going to jump right in.
Okay. I just saw a couple of questions. The first is, is this appropriate for preschool age, or do we have other resources for preschool age kids?
So I would say that it is not specifically catered to preschool kids, but the kindergarten angle of the lesson will work for older preschool students. We really went back and forth with the writing team, and when the lessons were created, we kind of imagined that going to preschool to first grade. But then there was a lot of discussion around, how churches feel about having preschool as part of their VBSs. Our feedback team had a lot of thoughts around that. So I would say that you're able to make it work for pre-K. We had pre-K in our test week. What we did find is mixing pre-K to first grade is not going to work, right? You need to kind of keep your pre-K, and then K and 1 can still function a little bit better together because the motor skill development might be a little more similar. But it's not specifically for pre-K, but I think our kindergarten lessons will work.
Thank you. There's another question about other types of resources, but let's just, for now, are there questions about this VBS curriculum that we might direct towards Nick? Go ahead, Diane.
It's just easier, faster if I talk instead of type. So our VBS is just in the mornings, though I'm a retired science teacher and I love that science aspect. Does the curriculum have information that the children could take home if they wanted in the afternoon to perform an experiment or a little project once or twice throughout the week, just to have that little carryover with the garden theme, and if we don't have time to squeeze that in at the church?
Yeah, I think because the way we have it in our curriculum is we have kind of a one-page extension suggestion for science. Day 1, here's an experience. Day 2, that. So then you can look at the title of those activities and go to that Pinterest and print them out, and kind of, I would just send them home with those step-by-step instructions, or, let them know where the web page is so that they can, today we invite you to go home and make a home compost thing, and then we can come back tomorrow and talk about it.
And then the Pinterest page, I would have that link with the curriculum when we purchase the curriculum.
Yeah,
correct?
There's a whole little social media and additional resources section. So you'll be able to click the link right in the curriculum or copy and paste it if that's more your style, and get access to all of those things.
Okay, so that and the YouTube videos would all be. One more quick question. Is it feasible to do this where you mix K through 5, or do you have to have the 2 separate groups? Just because numbers.
Yeah, I would say we kept in mind for it to be mixed. So that's part of why we have these different lessons. So some lessons, it's just here's, K1, here's 2-5, or it might be here's K3, here's 4-5. It's kind of specific lesson by lesson. So the way we wrote it is we started with, here's our core lesson. Where do we need to adjust that based on age? So I think with that side-by-side format, a mixed age group could work really well, because you kind of have, we're going to do the Bible story with the kind of easier vocabulary, and then I write side by side, can see the different questions. So I'm going to ask you, a younger student, this question, but I'm going to ask you, an older student, this more different question.
Yeah, that's how I have to teach my kids' church and Sunday school. I have them all together, and being a retired teacher helps. I can juggle.
Yeah, the behavior management part is the tricky part with that.
Yeah, I know that's going to be bulk of my job. Until you pointed it out, I never really thought about this, about the desert theme and the jungle theme and everything, and how the garden theme is really relatable to anybody, no matter where they live. Kudos to you. That's fantastic. I really like that approach.
Thank you. I do want to add, since we were talking about extension activities, because I forgot earlier, in addition to the science lessons, there's also a social justice extension where every day you could add an advocacy station. So students start on day 1 by picking a topic they want to talk about. On day 2, they practice how you can talk about that with another person. On day 3, they make a protest sign. So there's like these different kind of ideas of, if you want to make it a full day, here's some activities that you can add. There is a set of graphics for promoting the VBS. When you purchase the curriculum, you will get links to our Dropbox. And the Dropbox includes that kind of base image of the people in the garden, an image of each of the gardeners, and then access to spot illustration for those gardeners' objects. So each gardener has an object that helps them kind of teach the lesson they have of that day. So day 1 is Amani with a magnifying glass because she wonders about the world around her. So you have access to that image of Amani. So you might print out an Amani or project Amani as we're talking about Amani onto the screen. You might get magnifying glasses for students to have their own anchor object of practicing that. But then you can also use those graphics for other organizations. So I know when we had our kind of test weekend and we tried out this curriculum with real life kids, each classroom was assigned a different garden guide. So Amani is day 1, but Amani's picture was also outside the first grade classroom so that they knew they were looking for that picture. Or you could use those spot illustrations of, this class is the magnifying glass class. And then they have a sign with a magnifying glass that they can follow, right? You can use those images for kind of those additional inside activities as well as that promotion piece.
Awesome. So you can see that you really get your money's worth from this VBS. And I'll just put in a plug too that I saw a number of positive reactions to the idea of the second VBS curriculum that's in development around neurodiversity. And, you know, the money that you donate to Reconciling Ministries Network is also part of how we fund these programs. So we did a big fundraiser recently, was it Giving Tuesday, I think, around raising money for the development of the second curriculum. So thanks for your financial support of RMN as well. Okay, and sorry, Valerie wanted to know how long an average VBS day is.
Yep, so in our extension activities, we include suggested outlines. So this is a modular curriculum design. So what that means is each lesson or activity is its own lesson plan. So you can do that lesson plan in 20 minutes and address, you know, half of the questions and do one of the activities. Or you could take a full hour and have students add an additional activity. So our like storytelling lesson also includes an activity to process that story. But if you're on a quicker schedule, or if you're doing a 2-day VBS, we have a suggestion for how to do it shorter. So we provide a time breakdown suggestion for a half-day VBS, a full-day VBS, as well as a weekend VBS. So you kind of have 3 different options that we've tried to resource. So based on, oh, and we have an evening VBS that's only like 2 hours every evening. So no matter what context you're in, we're trying to give you the resources to do that. And with that modular curriculum design, it also means that you could use this curriculum in Sunday school for 5 months. And each month deals with a different story, biblical story, which we can remind students of each week, and then do craft 1 week, do game next week, and use all of those extension activities to fill up Sunday school lessons. So even if you don't do summer activities, that's an option.
My church is hoping to do an ecumenical evening Bible VBS. So we'll let you know how that goes, the evening setting. Yeah, so a lot of appreciation for this. There was a question a while back about resources that Reconciling Ministries has for celebrating Pride Month in worship, and several, I think Izzy put some links in and other participants put some links in, but then Ophelia said we're developing one that's going to be available in February. So could you share?
I was going to say, like, this is fresh off the presses. So in the new year, just as we like crossed into January, is when I kind of stepped into this part-time role over just doing the one project. And so I believe it was just Monday, maybe, or Friday, that Ophelia emailed me and said, hey, we get so many requests for RMN specific worship resources. And there's a lot of amazing, really radical stuff out there. I love that we have links of where to go to. But I think also sometimes like being able to find your own resources requires a certain amount of knowledge of what you're looking for and where to find it. So we're wanting to kind of give you all resources coming from RMN so you can maybe start with us if that's what you need. If you all already have places where you find amazing radical things, that's great. But we're wanting to create stuff that uses some of RMN's language. So we are putting together a worship planning packet. It will have high church and low church options for a variety of different liturgy. So we're going to have Pride service. We're going to have celebrating your church's RMN anniversary. We'll have a celebration of name change, a reaffirmation of baptism for those who have maybe left the church because of church harm and are coming back into it, as well as marriage ceremony, Trans Day of Remembrance, all of those kinds of things. So we're trying to just create this packet that will not necessarily be like, this is exactly what I'm going to say, but a packet of here's the framework. I'm going to go in this Word document. I'm going to change this name. I'm going to change that name. And now I can print it and I'm ready to go. So it will be coming out in February. I'm just starting to work on it.
Wow, that's so great. That's really exciting. There was one more question that came in while you were talking, Nick, about VBS. Lori says she's a volunteer who has no children's ministry experience. Do you think this is something doable for a newbie like me?
Yes, 100%. That's something that we really had in mind as we were creating this. And this is also where I'm going to like toot my own horn a little bit. But before I got into the ministry world, was a teacher myself in Teach for America, which in retrospect, I don't know if I would sign up for that program. We have lots of ethical concerns, blah, blah, blah. But something that I learned in Teach for America was how to create curriculum to get someone who doesn't know how to teach at all to be able to get through a lesson and make sure students learn something. So that's something that I was really firm about as we were creating this curriculum of, I like to say, how do we make resources idiot proof? So each day has an overview kind of sheet that goes along with that video. So even if you've never worked with kids, at the bottom of the page is, here's a good way to get students' attention. Here's a good way to transition from one class to another. So not just addressing how am I talking to kids about God, but also how am I moving kids from this space to that space? And we tried to address those concerns too. We also are really available for kind of support and continued work. That's part of this Facebook page. We are right now, it's a lot of promotional stuff, right? Because up until March or April, we're really wanting to make sure that people know this curriculum exists and to get it in their hands. But once we transition to the point where people are really gearing up to get ready, we're going to be sharing things like short video segments for suggestions of working with kids or how to adapt lessons for kids with special needs. We're going to be having more resources so that if you keep up with our Facebook or if you reach out to us with specific questions, we can also give you kind of additional support and resources. That's part of kind of the purchasing price is also that continued support from us.
That's amazing. And it sounds like this is just a great opportunity for leadership development too around holistic children's ministry. So, maybe that's a way to encourage people in your congregation to get on board with this is, this is how we rebuild. I know a lot of churches are rebuilding after the pandemic, rebuilding our children's ministries. So,
well, and one last thing, I just keep being reminded, but like, I think this curriculum gives us a really good opportunity for all sorts of different kind of rebuilding that we need in our church world right now, right? I know I was from, a community in St. Louis, Missouri, and I felt like RMN was about, doing this big denominational shifting, and it didn't really feel like what was available kind of coming from folks who were fighting for inclusion was really helping when what I needed wasn't just the denomination to change. I needed my Sunday school teachers to change, right? And sometimes, especially in those communities where a lot of rights for LGBT folks have been restricted, it's really hard to start these conversations around identity and justice and solidarity. But when we put it in the eyes of children, these are clearly the lessons that we want. So what does it look like to have our kids lead with these lessons of vital Christian concepts of community and love and advocacy, right? And then invite the rest of our church to kind of wake up a little bit and move along that journey.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Oh, and so then we have another question from HN, and this is HN. I would love to continue this conversation. So as we hope that the denomination changes, that might mean there are more queer and trans pastors. And there are more communities who might think they're so ready for a trans pastor. But I have to tell you, as a non-binary person, I go into lots of communities that think they're really affirming, and then every single person comes up and talks to me after worship because it's like, look, there's a queer person. Microaggression, right? People don't mean badly, but sometimes it makes it uncomfortable for me. So what are we doing to support our communities as they're preparing themselves to accept queer and trans appointments? HN, that is something we are talking about and in the planning process of how to create that resource. So I would love to reach out to you in the future for maybe being on the development or writing team as we start to create that.
Nick,
and I think you actually inspired that at Convocation. So good job.
that is awesome. That's going to be, hopefully it's going to be so needed. I mean, it is needed, but hopefully it's going to be more needed. So Nick, would you be willing to share your email in the chat, just if people
Yes.
have follow-up questions or further ideas for resources that would be helpful to you in your ministry and your context that RMN could develop. Again, RMN is here for us, for you. I mean, we are the movement, but also we're just so grateful for this incredible staff that resources us and provides us ways to be in ministry in inclusive and intersectional ways in all of our contexts. Yes, the chat transcript. I think maybe Ophelia, would you be able to do that? Send out the chat. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to just transition us to, again, thank you for being here as part of this Reconciling Clergy group. We are rebuilding this within RMN as an extension ministry of all of the clergy and the connection and how we can support each other, network together, and be a really active part of the movement. Not just about General Conference, but hopefully leading the church into the future. Myself and Joey Heath Mason are the board members who are kind of getting this up and running. And so if you have ideas for future Reconciling Clergy gatherings, topics that you'd like to have us talk about, or presentations, things that would be helpful to you in your ministry, I'm going to put my email into the chat as well, so you could email me directly. And Joey's on Sabbath leave right now, but he'll be back with us. So I wanted to also just highlight a couple of our planned upcoming clergy gatherings. We were aiming for the second Thursday of each month around lunchtime, for these Zoom gatherings for about an hour. And so our next one is Thursday, February 8th at 1 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have Bishop Olavito with us, talking about just how encouraging the clergy and thinking about the church in this moment and what it means to lead in the church in this moment. So I'm very excited to be in conversation with Bishop Olavito and grateful for her time. So please plan to join us for that, and we'll be sending you more information about registering for that through Eventbrite, the same way that you did for this one. And then in March 14th, our gathering is going to be focused on organizing around annual conference and general conference. So hearing from people about the organizing that they're doing locally and nationally and internationally, as these big gatherings come up this year, and we think about legislation and changes that are coming in our church, how we can be more connected and aware of what's happening in different parts of our connection. And then we're hoping to meet in person for those of you who will be at General Conference in Charlotte, for us to have an in-person clergy gathering at some point during that time. So we'll send out more information about that as that gets closer. And I hope that we'll see many of you there as well in person. So yeah, any other comments or questions folks wanted to share, or things you wanted to lift up before we close? Then could we just thank Nick for their time and for sharing with us today. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Ophelia, for your support today. And it's great to see all of you. Go in peace. Keep doing all the good work you're doing. Bless you in your ministry and in your lives.